hear me? Okay, perfect. You can. Okay, perfect. So we're back. So you want to start with the level of difficulty for the NCS practice problem. And I'm not saying just stick with that. No, go maybe couple, like let's say we're talking about B range for the NCS practice problem. Go B plus, go A minus. I would not really go A plus. A plus on the exam, they are called P pre-test questions, PT questions. These are, if you look at your diagnostic report, let's say you or your friend, sadly took the exam and did not pass, look at your diagnostic report. Count how many questions on the diagnostic report. You'll see 70, not 80. So there are 10 problems. They are called PT questions, we call them. A pre-test question, right? They're not graded. So if you're really sticking with the A plus and you're thinking that you're going to go on the exam and pass, I don't think so. Because you're always thinking that these questions on the exam, they will be as difficult as what you practiced. And you always keep telling yourself, no, I think you're doubting yourself. Oh, this cannot be as simple as this. It cannot be sigma equal m over s. No, there must be something that I'm missing, right? So always have a good range of these questions, either C minus, C plus, B, B plus, A minus. Fine to go A plus, but don't really stick with that. And then build templates for the codes, right? And obviously, when I say build templates for the code, you're probably going to say, what are the templates that you're referring to? Here's a good example of what I've done, at least on my exam, or for my, preparing for the exam. Here's a steel, template telling here, part one, mentions and properties. When you write things, or when you actually write on a piece of paper, you will memorize things. Well, why do I need to memorize? The exam is not memorization. I don't know about that. We always say it's part of it, memorization. I know some people that like to say not memorization, familiarization. I sometimes, we always joke about it. It's not familiarize, it's memorize. It's actually known. Okay, it's chapter 9 is for beams on the concrete side. Okay, chapter 7 is one-way slab. It's not really familiarizing. I'm not familiarizing myself with saying chapter 7 is one-way slab. It's more of saying it is one-way slab and memorizing that. You could build your own template on Excel. You could do that on, a piece of paper. I've done both. The only reason why I'm doing really Excel, it's more like showing clients and kind of presentation for these type of, purposes. But you always, getting the full benefit by doing things, on a piece of paper, just sharpen your pencil, right? So here's, a template for the steel manual. What about if I'm doing the concrete manual? It's going to be the same thing. Chapter, let's say I usually start with chapter 5, sometimes even skip that because it's technically load combinations, and load combinations, you can find that in chapter 2 in the ASCE 716, or just say 7, or you could go to chapter 16 in the IBC. Then you can, start saying, okay, chapter 7 is one-way slab, chapter 2, two-way slab, chapter 9, beams, chapter 10, columns, chapter 11, walls, chapter, 17, anchor bolts or whatever. And then, go to chapter 21, 22, all these, I guess, design strength for one-way strength, one-way shear strength, two-way axial load, moment, and all that kind of stuff. And then you go to chapter 26 for like all these compliance, test and I guess specifications. So it's very helpful when you write it. I know it's going to take you a minute, but it will come really handy on the exam, right? Things to keep in mind. Okay, after really tutoring and helping people, doing webinars and seminars, helping big groups, one-on-one, you just name it, even the school. I don't know if I mentioned that, but I'm also a professor at University of Colorado Denver and Metro State University. Not really full-time, just doing part-time and sometimes not every semester. After looking at all these kind of stuff, I came to a kind of conclusion why people do not do great, on exams in general. Or this particular one is PE civil structure, right? People, when you go to the actual exam, they get kind of frustrated with the atmosphere. Oh, I'm sitting 4 hours here doing practice or doing problems, and I need to be efficient. I need to be careful. I need to be precise, all that kind of stuff. It is hard. Absolutely, it's hard. So what are we going to do? We're going to mimic the actual exam atmosphere, mainly time management, time-wise, right? Are you going to take an exam 4 hours when you start preparing for this exam? My philosophy is always against that. I'm a person who likes to gradually build, the confidence. I came here about 10 years ago, spoken zero English. I could not make, any conversation. So I built the confidence step by step, right? Small group, big group, teaching, blah, 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 yada, 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 right? That's the same thing. You're not going to go all the way to 4 hours. I don't think 4 hours taking an actual exam or taking a similar, mimicking the exam, doing a 4 hour exam. I don't think that's great. You're going to, it's supposed to do 40 problems in those 4 hours. You're probably going to do 20 top or 22 because again, you're not there, you're not up there, you don't have the time management skills yet. So just gradually building the confidence. Go back to the 4T framework, right? Calculator mistakes all the time. I hear this all the time. I'm not getting 2.7. I'm getting 16.1. What I'm doing wrong here? Well, it looks like order of operation, especially certain calculators, they're kind of picky. So you need to be very cognitive and careful about what you're plugging in. So calculator mistakes, arithmetic mistakes, all that kind of stuff. Third thing, everyone is complaining about this. I have a full-time job, I have kids, I have family, and I'm doing this. And summertime, I really want to go out. I really want to have some sanity time. Want to have some, fun with family. Control your stress level. When I say control it, you know better than anyone. You know what you should do and what you should not do. You know how many hours you should study in a week versus in a day versus over the weekend. Oh, you like Sunday just to relax and doing, family stuff. Do it. If you want to do Sunday study and the next Sunday study again, the third Sunday, you're probably gonna just lose it. You're not gonna have that pattern. So have some sanity time. Make sure that you take care of yourself and people around you. You don't just say, I have an exam. I need to pass this exam no matter what. Probably after a month, I've seen it too many times with people. They start crying in front of me and say, no, I can't handle this anymore. I can't take it anymore. Why? Because I've been just studying in a robot and studying and studying, studying, not taking any sanity time, and I'm just now, you know, going off, which is always happening, right? Item number 4 is kind of related to item number 3. Stress level, comparing yourself with others. You're probably going to see your friend. They took the exam first time, did not really study a lot, passed the exam. You've been taking this exam for a year or 2 years, failed the first time, second time. You're getting really, I guess, very worried about what's going to happen with the next time that you're taking it. Do not compare yourself with others. You have great tools that I don't. I have great tools that you don't. So you always think about it as I have this, X does not. X has this, I don't have. It's fine, right? And actually, that brings me to item number 5. Be patient. I'm not a patient person. I'm learning. or I'm really teaching myself to be patient. I like great things to happen in seconds. That's not going to happen, right? So always be patient with yourself. Okay, I studied today an hour with solving, let's say, let's be realistic, six problems, having each problem 10 minutes, which is not the average, but I'm just saying you just started studying. So that's, let's say, Tuesday. Tomorrow, you're doing another, 1 hour studying. All of a sudden, you're expecting yourself to solve 10 or 12 problems. Nope, that's not going to happen. If that happens, that's great, but do not assume Thursday is going to go as Wednesday, because again, you got to be very patient. You know, talking about item number 5 actually leads me to talk about item number 6, patience, consistency. If you really want to, get all the great fruits and really have great things happen to you, therefore, I need to be consistent. So if I'm studying 1 hour today, I would like to do another 1 hour tomorrow. I would like to do 1 hour on Thursday and maybe take Friday off and then do another couple hours on Saturday and Sunday. This is a big topic that every client comes to me and say, how many hours I should study? The answer is, I don't know. You tell me how many hours you can dedicate during weekdays. What is your job? Is your job a field engineer or just in the office? Do you work overtime or just 40 hours? How many hours commute wise it takes, you to get to the office and going back home? All these items would determine how many hours I should tell you to study. If you're going from, let's say, Denver, and you're going to, let's just, be realistic, Arvada, just an example. And if you're, going there every day and you're, usually leaves home by, let's say, 7:30, that's probably not going to take you only half an hour. It's probably going to take you 50 minutes. And if you're leaving around 4 o'clock, it's probably going to take you another hour or so. So you're technically 2 hours commute times 5 days or 4 days. Let's say you're taking Friday just remote, right? And here's 8 hours. So if I'm expecting you to leave at 4 and get home by 5 and then eat dinner, relax, and probably sit with your, partner, um, that would probably at that time it's going to be, or, by then it's going to be 6 o'clock. I cannot tell you study 3 hours. That's not fair. I probably cannot tell you to study 2 hours. That's also not fair, at least myself. I used to do number, questions. I don't really do hours. I do, I found out time is good to measure, but it also, the quality is better than quantity. So I say, I'm going to do 10 problems today or 5 problems today. I'm going to time for myself. Suppose take me 30 minutes if I'm doing 5 problems. Let's see what I'm going to do. And I start. If I am satisfied, if I'm content with those 5 problems, I'll stop and just enjoy my time with family. Let's say it's taking me more than that. In that scenario, you have two options. Option number one, it's not your best day. Don't study. Don't. You're going to sit for hours and accomplish nothing. Or you could give yourself another 15, 10, 15, 20, even 30 minutes to get, I guess, through this pass or these problems. And that's fine. But don't really sit and say, I want to solve 10 problems today. If it takes me 3 hours or 4 hours or half an hour, if it takes you half an hour, great. But if it keeps, stretching the time, if you keep stretching the time, I don't think that is very useful. So that's why I'm against time. I am more into problems. Say, I want to solve 5 problems, 5 times 6 minutes, 30 minutes. If I go 35, fine, especially if I'm doing it the first time, or 40 minutes even. If I do less than that, that is great. And then I look at my result. Okay, I got 3 out of 5, 16%. That's not bad. Let's do a better job tomorrow. Let's see what are the mistakes. Oh, this is arithmetic mistakes. Oh, that's easy to fix. Oh, this one is I'm completely off. I'm using the different equation. Or maybe the question was solved wrongly, which happens to me a lot, especially with the NCS. So I'll share with that some I guess insightful information. The seventh item here, build the confidence. And that actually, if you really look at the what you might call the items here, you'll see they are kind of like back to back. They're a result of the previous item, right? Be consistent, be patient. So you have to be consistent. Okay, what if I am consistent? I'm gonna build the confidence. So building the confidence is one of the most complex and hard thing to do in yourself and even with others. Building trust with people is very hard. Building confidence with yourself and in yourself and say, I am confident with what I'm doing, that is very hard. So that's why you need to be very, very you need to stick with your schedule and be very consistent. In order to be consistent, in order to be confident, you need to practice problems, right? And you cannot just say, "Oh, I'm confident," and you do not practice. That's more bragging, right? I don't think that's great, right? So what about if I'm doing the problem and I'm being consistent, I am doing all the items to be confident, but I'm making mistakes, which is item 8. That's fine. Learn from your mistakes. Tell yourself after you finish, here's 5 problems. I got 3 out of 5, 60%. I'm looking at the questions that I did not get right. Oh, I did something wrong here. Okay, I'm learning. Probably have a separate page in red. That's what I usually do. Telling myself, okay, watch units, for example. Um, Here is a keyword for this problem. What else? Arithmetic mistakes. Um, do not overthink it. I usually tell myself all these things, right? And here is a really cool tip that I actually have found very useful and extremely helpful with people. They are looking at a specific problem and looking at the NCS or whatever solution and found the solution did not make sense. So I found sticking with basic really useful. Here's a problem that I don't know if some of you, you know, familiar with this problem. This is a problem actually coming from, let's see if I can zoom in here. Yep. This problem is coming from the NCS, and this is version July 2021. And if you really see here, this problem is identical with different options in the October 2023 version. And this, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's problem number 12 in the new version, if you don't have the old one, right? So the way I looked at the problem, the way I actually looked at the NCS solution, I should say, it did not make a lot of sense to me. It probably made sense to you, but I did not really like the way the NCS solved it. So I went back to the basic. I said, in order to solve this, I need to I am being asked to find the bearing pressure. And just to let you know, I will do a separate session, all practice problems, probably 2 sessions. But I just want to bring something here to kind of like emphasize what I'm trying to say about the basic, if that makes sense. So the keyword here is how I usually solve problem. I don't really read the entire problem sometimes. I only look at what they're asking for, at least at first glance. Say, okay, bearing of pressure. Okay, bearing of pressure. Right away thinking about eccentricity. Okay, eccentricity has to be in the middle, right? Just to make things, it doesn't have to be, but it makes, things easy and not complicated. So I need to get my E. I know the E equation is M divided by P. P is the vertical, right? Okay, I need to get my M, my moment. 20 times, we'll go through that when we do a specific session, but 20, two from here, two from here, half of 20, that's 10. It's going counterclockwise. This 80 is also going counterclockwise. So I could add them up. Notice that here I did the absolute value, just in case if I'm doing minus or whatever. And 20 times 10, 80 times 10, that's 1,000 kip feet. Now I'm looking for, now you're probably going to ask, hold on a second, you did not include the footing weight. Well, I'm doing the moment at the center, so that should not cause any moment because your moment arm is 0, right? But don't forget to add this when you do the vertical force. 80 is negative, 20 is positive, 2.5 distributed load times 24. It's 120. Eccentricity is equal M divided by P to get you feet. If you're not familiar with this equation, think about it from unit-wise, right? Kip, cancel out. Feet. M divided by P is 8.33. Now I go here and say, bearing a pressure, it would be either this equation or that equation. And I put here the reference. The NCS Reference Handbook, version 2.1, section so yada yada, right? P over the area. This is nothing but P over A plus My over I, the most common equation that senior engineers use in their entire life. And then this is the second version. It's probably not, you're not going to see it this way or this, I guess, shape, this form for some other books or some other senior engineers. They could have 2 over 3 B times B over 2 minus E, and then you take the 1/2 out, so it becomes 1 over 1/2, and that becomes 2 times 2 is 4. But I'm not going off of anything here except basic and reference handbook. The reference handbook is telling me this. If within the middle of 1/3, if not, it's this equation. Getting 2.73, and the option is D, according to the NCS, options. I think it's option C in the new version in October 2023. So I think problem 12, if I'm not mistaken. But the idea is not to really tell you what I'm doing here, like specifically. I'm just saying it's all about the basic. Going back to the basic, right? You're seeing a really interesting equation in the NCS practice problem or practice exam. You're not really sure what is going on. What should I do? I should go and solve the problem as I don't really see the solution and stick with the basic. You'll find this very helpful, right? So this is a good example, hopefully teach you this. I'm gonna here talk about very last few, I guess, slides, the FAQs. And this is very common. People always ask me these questions, so I wrote them here. Where to start with resources? We should always start with the NCS and then build upon that. If you recall here, review the specs from the NCS. And these FAQs, they're kind of like target people, they're in between taking the exam in a month or in several months. but usually the philosophy and the basic is the same. Again, I like to stick with always basic. Start with the NCS, make sure that you know your specs, and kind of go from there. Where to find other good resources? This is a really, vital question that I always get. When I'm seeing these problems and I don't think they're really good. What do you think? Can you critique these problems? I have a simple criteria here. It says any question that is reasonable time-wise and in conformance with the manuals or the handbook is considered a good practice problem. Any problem that says 1 hour duration, to me, with very respect, and I'm not trying to be rude here, I don't think this is a good problem, no matter who created this problem or that problem. Even if I created that problem, say, Nguyen, that took me 30 minutes or took normal people 30 minutes. This is not a good problem. You just put it in my face, in your face. That's not a problem. How much time do I need to be fully prepared? It actually depends. I don't go with months. I don't go with hours. I usually go with energy and with what is your scenario? Are you married? Are you single? Do you have two jobs? What is your kind of like day in, day out job? Are you like going to the office every day? Do you work remote? Give me all these criteria. I'll tell you how many months, and obviously I'll meet with you. Say, okay, you've got good energy. I am very excited to take this exam and pass it. It's different than some people. They have too many things, and that's nothing wrong with people. They're trying to take it in 6 months or even beyond that. It's nothing. I always say, do not compare yourself. You're doing a great job controlling all the outside, study and zone items. That's very phenomenal. People, they can take the exam and pass it and still control other and kind of manage and be multitasking. That's great. At least that's what I did. When I took the exam, my wife was pregnant with the first baby for the PE. For the SC, part of the SC, I took the exam. Same thing with my wife was pregnant with a second baby. So it's kind of funny, right? But again, you manage your things. You tell yourself, am I ready for taking this exam? If I'm not, do not really over stress yourself and push your limits. I think things will go in a negative way. So let's see here. I will be answering these questions, but let me just go over this. How many hours should I study a day? I think I talked about this in during the presentation and as well as with preparation time. What are the best ways to study and be fully prepared for this? Personally, I found, not just me, people that I know, the 4T framework really helped me a lot in my entire life, especially preparing for exams. And these kind of exams, really important to know how to control yourself, control your time, do time management, be familiar. If you really want to summarize the 4T framework, it's just one word: time, 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 time. Well, I need to practice, but in order to practice, you need to know the terminologies. But all goes to time. If you did not pass the exam and you have trouble with time, that's because you did not have enough templates, practice problems, terminologies, and stuff like that. I wrote here in the previous question, up to 8 hours. I know some people say, oh, that's a lot. I did for my PE 10 hours, Saturday, Sunday. I don't think it's very unlikely. And if thinking about, just working, sometimes we work more than 8 hours. You don't want to overdo it. You could do that for 2 weekends. I usually don't really prepare for a lot of months, usually 5 weeks, 4 weeks. That's my usual preparation time. So when I do 10 hours, 10 hours, Saturday, Sunday, that helps me a lot in my preparation. It does not have to be 8 hours. It's, again, don't compare yourself with anyone. Just say, what is my capacity? What is my to-do list? Always think about it from that perspective. Let's see here, what else? How should I prepare if I failed the exam once or more? Going back to the 4T framework. Do not think that this exam is a good measuring tool to say you're a good engineer or a bad engineer. You are an amazing engineer, and this exam does not tell you anything on your capability, and you're just great at what you're doing. You just need to know this exam is nothing to do with your, personal life or your personal, or I guess your work or your accomplishment. It's nothing to do. People sometimes they're good at it because they're good at taking exams. People are not good at it. I know a coworker who's phenomenal, you know, and she knows way more than what I know. And she took the exam 4 times and she did not pass it. That's with all the respect to the exam and with anyone who would disagree with me, but I definitely think this is not a measuring tool. It does not measure how good you are as an engineer. So keep that in mind. Do I need to take an exam prep course? Probably, but it's not a must. I personally did not take any of a prep course for my FE, for my PE, for my SE. And studying these and teaching people, teaching the school, have all these basic, and I'm a designer or, an engineer, who's been enjoying just the calculation part on top of doing management. This year I was promoted to be structural project manager and doing more the management, but I still miss the part sometimes and sit with myself and do more, just design, right? So it depends. Should I do one-on-one or a prep course? Or just like a group prep course. I personally don't like a group prep course. Nothing against that. The only reason why I do have specific questions that I want to ask the tutor, the instructor, here are the questions. Like think about it from office hour for professors. You go there, here are my questions, answer them, thank you, bye-bye. Right? It's kind of similar thing. If you're wondering what types of packages that are the packages that the Legend for Tutoring offers, this is again not a presentation about Legend for Tutoring, but we offer 10, 20, 30 hours package, either one-on-one or small groups. And the small groups usually, people they know each other or from the same company or whatever. But these are on Zoom recorded. You're not gonna lose them. You're gonna create your own agile schedule. There's a lot of flexibility on that end, and the package do not expire. Just to let you know. What makes Legend for Tutoring a good resource for this exam? Several reasons. Mainly, I do care about my clients, and all people that work with me, they do care about their clients. We try to make sure that we are helping people online and offline. And I personally took the CBT PE exam. I did not take the paper and pencil. I took my PE in 2022, April, so almost 3 years ago. Did not have really enough experience. I'm not like a senior engineer. I'm still like, you want to say junior slash intermediate engineer. So I only have 4 years experience. So did not have enough actually years of experience to take the official stamp. I did take my official stamp 2 years ago. So when because I have my master and almost PhD, so that helps with speed up the years of experience. But generally speaking, I deal with CBT, and I do have a passing streak on the CBT. A lot of people don't like CBT. I kind of really like CBT because it's kind of my own baby. I kind of took the CBT, PE took the CBT, FE took the CBT, part of the SE CBT as well, right? This is a good question here that I actually was asked frequent times. Can I fail after doing all that? Yes, sadly. Again, it's nothing to do with you. You are a great engineer. Keep doing what you're doing. It's something to do with the exam, questions that you're getting, the way that you're preparing, time management. Some people like, oh, I have 20 years experience. I'm going to take the exam and no problem. I don't know about that. I found the less years of experience that you have, the higher chance that you can pass this exam, in my opinion. I know some people would disagree with that, but that's just my own perspective because the questions are more solving problems. Yes, you'll get some of these questions on the exam where like, what would you do in this scenario? And probably if you've got some years of experience under your belt, you could address the question better. But again, it's a mix of both. In my opinion, I lean towards being fresh and still doing all the calcs, having a higher chance to pass this exam. And with that being said, it's time for questions. I'm happy to answer. Nick and Clayton, they are super great as well with answering questions. So please, you guys, if you would like to share your own experience, please do so. And Cameron, I don't know if you're still on the call or no.
Yep, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it'd be great if we want to start. Maybe Clayton, if you want to go first and talk about your experience, and then we'll let Nick talk, and then we'll start doing questions. Um, Newton, if you can too. I don't know if I'm still a host, so I'm not seeing messages. Can you look into that while they speak?
Okay. Um,
Go.
Yeah,
Go
I can
ahead.
go ahead and
yeah.
share my experience. Hello, my name is Clayton. I'm a structural designer at Benish. I work mostly on bridges, on railroad bridges, is the department I'm a part of. I recently took the exam in February, and passed it. So definitely excited to have gotten done with it. But a couple. So I started studying probably in November. I would say the first month I didn't do, or I was kind of gathering resources, watching some YouTube videos, and I felt like that wasn't super productive for me. Once I started actually solving problems, I felt like I actually started learning more or becoming more confident in my abilities. I So my recommendation is do as many practice problems as you can. I think that is my recommendation for how to study, and that's at least what helped me the most. In terms of the exam itself, the first part of the exam, I felt there was a lot less questions related to some of the design codes or standards. In the second half, there were a lot more questions related to the design codes and standards. Um, since I work on railroad bridges, I hardly ever work in the standards. And so like AASHTO, IBC, ASCE, the NDS, TMS, like those I hardly ever open. And so I felt some of those questions were the hardest, in my opinion. And so if you are somebody who doesn't use those codes often, I would recommend maybe putting some more time into familiarizing yourself with those codes and then doing practice problems related to those codes. Um, let's see, any other, I would say during the exam itself, um, so I guess study habits, I studied Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday typically. And I tried to do roughly 8 to 10 practice problems in the evening after work. And that's what worked for me. I started with the NCES exam. I did that once. I kind of just did it without, I would do 10 problems and then I wouldn't even look at what I got wrong or didn't get wrong. And then 2 weeks later, I tallied my score and I kind of made a study plan from that based on what I got wrong and what I needed to study. Um, I found the easiest way to find practice problems. My company has some practice problems in an archive, but I emailed some professors that I like, my steel professor, and my steel professor had a ton of practice problems. So that is a recommendation for ways to find practice problems. And then during the exam itself, I stopped studying a couple days. I took the exam on a Friday. I worked the full week before, I really stopped studying probably that Tuesday and just kind of took care of myself before the exam. During the exam, you get a break in the middle, went outside, walked around. I felt like that was a great way to refresh myself. I did get fatigued in the second half of the exam, especially probably in the last 10 questions. I started definitely feeling like my brain was getting a little foggy. So my recommendation there is if there are a couple problems that you definitely know that you don't know how to do like right away, 30 seconds and you're like, I have no idea how to do this. Maybe skip those problems. Get the ones that you know how to do done first while your brain's fresh, and then you'll have time at the end where you can go back and maybe spend some more time on the problems that you don't know. Um, I think that's pretty much all the points that I wanted to say.
Clint,
So
Clint, I'm gonna actually say about this. It's kind of funny. I flagged the first 11 problems. Tick, 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 flag, 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 and then moved to 11. I was like, oh, I'm failing. I'm pretty sure if I'm flagging the first 11. So there's nothing wrong with the flagging, guys.
yeah,
Thanks for bringing this up.
I probably flagged 10 problems or per section. So 20 of the 80 questions total I flagged, and then because I didn't know how to do them within the first 30 seconds of looking at them, and then I came back and looked at them later. So
Yeah, flagging is a really great tool. I flagged the first 11, but I ended up having almost, I think, 70 minutes spare. So having, flagging and still being able to come back, because some of these questions that you can knock in like 2 minutes, probably even less, right? Remember sigma equal m over s. Okay, that's easy. Boom, half a minute. So you don't really feel that flagging is, your enemy. Think about it from a battle and a war. You're just saying, hold on a second, I'm losing this, but I'm gonna overall win the war, right? So if you think about it that way, and that would help you a lot with your confidence at the end. Having spare time would help a lot. So just comment on this, and same thing with the fatigue. So if you're having spare time, that's what happened to me. Spare time, I went actually outside. I basically use the bathroom and I spent 10 minutes not doing anything because I have 70 minutes that I could like, I don't want to say play with, but I just like relax a bit, kind of like drink more water and just get back at it and study. I mean, I guess, solve these problems more being efficient and if, effective. So, flagging is not a problem, guys.
Yeah, just kind of play off that. I mean, I definitely I don't know, I felt like the hardest part of the whole exam was actually just sitting in a chair that's uncomfortable in a room full of people for 4 hours straight. Like that's really hard to do. I mean, let alone the problems and everything are difficult, but just keeping your mind fresh and everything. That middle section that you get, like you do the first half and then you get like a lunchtime and then you got the second half. That lunchtime, like I went and walked around the block. Like I use, I mean, you can't have a time on there, but you can kind of, when you get out, set up your phone to be like, okay, I got 30 minutes and you start that timer and you're like, okay, I can watch that. But I would say like my biggest thing was when you you go through all your things and you say, okay, I'm done with the first half. You go through all your flags. And then once you're done, as soon as you click, I don't remember what it was, but that time starts for your lunch. So like what I did is I'd raise my hand before I clicked that time. And then once they come into the room, then I'll click that and be like, okay, now I've got that time. Just a little extra time is always nice when you're in the middle of that. But yeah, flagging is always good. I mean, you get 4 minutes per question. So, that's a decent amount of time. It doesn't seem like a lot of time until you're sitting there doing problems. Like, okay. And you can kind of watch the time in the corner. That's kind of what I was doing. But yeah, the test is hard, but know your codes, know your standards, make sure that you know how to use the search button in PDF, right? In Bluebeam. I mean, I use Bluebeam. I think it's like a version of Adobe, but it's like one screen, right? I mean, it's so just make sure you know the search, and some codes don't label them out, right? Like, so I think the ASCE, they give you each chapter. They don't give you the full code, they give you each chapter, but then ASCE, they give you the full code. So like the search is really specific in ASCE. You need to make sure you know what chapter you're going to, where you need to be at, and then you can search what you want to look for. So that's kind of a big thing. I don't know, that handbook, the NCES handbook, I mean, it is more general, but I would say like I use the shear and moment diagrams on that because they were easier to read, easier to get to than the other shear and moment diagrams that are like in the steel manual, stuff like that. And then like the soil questions, because I don't know a lot about soil. I mean, I know some, but that NCS handbook really helped with like retaining wall, that kind of stuff. Um, yeah, I mean, just be prepared. I mean, I really think just sitting, just like getting in that mindset of I'm going to do this. This is what I'm going to do for 8 hours straight. Take my break, plan ahead, make sure you bring enough food to give yourself energy, you know, protein. I don't know, all the stuff. Like I just packed myself a peanut butter sandwich, an apple, protein bar, rice cakes or whatever, and then just go take a walk, eat your food, drink your water. It'll be good. But I don't know. I took it a couple times, so I failed it. I've been through it. It's not an easy test, but once you get the pass, it was well worth it. And I did take a class. I took EET, and that really helped. Just doing practice problems, like just make sure you know how to do problems quick, you know, efficient, and it'll be good.
I appreciate that, Nick. Just telling people that you did not pass the first time, so there's nothing wrong with failing, but she did not stop. You
Yeah.
really, went and took it again and passed it, and look, he's now happy and he's very proud of what he did, and that's very amazing, right? I also want to talk about quickly here the extra time. When I took the exam, I did not know that you can save time for the next session. Apparently you can, so just take that in consideration, right? So if you can save, especially Clayton mentioned, which I always keep hearing from people saying the first session half is not as bad as the second. So if you can save time for the second half, that would help a lot. And with the manuals, not sometimes some of them, they're not all the manual, like the ACI is all of it, 500 plus pages, hard sometimes to find things. Also, in the steel is not very helpful because if you don't know what section or what chapter or what part they call it in the steel manual, you're also, pardon my French, you're screwed, right? You don't really know this. You cannot click on this, which happened to me. I was like, some of these questions, like on, I think it was, there's like specific question on shop drawing. I was like, I don't know what they're talking about. This is not really something that I have to know. And I start clicking on chapter N, chapter whatever, and not getting much. I was like, okay, you know what? Screw it. I'm just gonna pick whatever. So don't really waste your time, and you could flag it and just move on. Once you have extra time, you could do that. So save some time as much as possible. And if you do the math, it's 6 minutes per problem. So if you could prepare, it's 4. Nick, I think you
I
said,
thought it was 4, but
I think
what?
it's 6. It's 8 times 60
Yeah.
divided by 80. So it should be 6.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah,
6.
6 minutes. Yeah.
That's
Sorry.
what I thought. Yeah, that's fine.
That's more.
Yeah. So, I think you guys will do a great job if you just keep those in. And I really, really enjoy when Nick says that I took it multiple times. There's nothing wrong with this. So if you're like, oh, I failed it, I cannot tell my coworkers, blah, blah, blah. That's fine. Everyone fails. I failed the FE first time. I'm okay with saying that. There's nothing wrong with this, and I probably will fail the SE, the last part, which is a nightmare. Who knows? If I fail it, that's fine. I'll take it again. So,
I did want to say too, the big thing that I found that like the first time I took it going into the second time was knowing structural analysis because I feel like I'm not deep in structural analysis like I was in school. And being out in the field and like being in the real world, like you don't do double moment equations all the time. Like I'm not doing shear and moment diagrams all the time. So like just refreshing that and making sure you know how to do those efficiently and quick is really key because you don't want to spend your time on the beginning structural analysis time. You want to spend your time in the details and the second half because that's where you really need to keep the time. And that's like on the last half, I did flag a couple that I was like, I have no freaking idea how to do this. And so I'll just flag it and be like, okay, I'm not going to waste my time thinking about this. Just flag it, move on, come back to it. Maybe a question will refresh your memory on that last question, stuff like that.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. Flagging and knowing your basic, especially if you don't work with, like, for example, Clayton is working with bridges. He knows AASHTO better than X, right? I know AASHTO very well. When I took the exam, I had only AASHTO experience. I only had bridges. So if you tell me something about TMS or what you call it, the PCI, I was like, what are you talking about? In the PCI, I found out really there is a very, I think chapter 15, it's very helpful. It tells you all these good stuff like for welds, it is very helpful. Even like tells you about the combination sigma P over A plus minus M over S. That there is a figure in chapter 5, I think it's like 531, is really helpful. It could solve the problem for you. So explore the codes as it really you gonna, really enjoy the time when you take the exam and know, okay, this guy is actually in conformance with this figure. I don't have to think because they do ask questions. If you know where to find that, it's gonna take you like blink of eye. It's really quick. So
When all the questions have a place somewhere you can find it.
mhm.
Like there's no matter what, you never run into a question that you can't find it. So that's a lot easier said than done, obviously, in the test when you're like, oh shoot, I can't find this, but it is there somewhere.
Yes. And I found sometimes controlling Control F for trying to search for the options, at least on the OSHA side, very helpful because OSHA is like huge and you're like, let's say 12 feet. So Control F 12 feet is probably better than Control F anchor bolt, for example, just an example, right? So it might be very helpful to Control F the options rather than Control F the question or a keyword in the problem. It's all about, I'm telling you, it's all about managing your time. You could take this exam. I was talking to a client the other day, and I said, I solved more than 100 problems in 6 hours. And he's like, this is insane. There's no way you can do this. I was like, yes, you can. If you're getting at your manuals, you will find some problems only takes you seconds. So if you really know your codes, if you know your handbook, you know the basic, as Nick mentioned about the structural analysis and structural design, all these basic, double the curvature, or you're talking about SFD, the shear force diagram, bending moment diagram, or even the basic statics. Some people that don't really do a lot of statics. So like, oh, I'm having trouble with doing reactions here, or oh, I forgot how to find the moment of inertia. I get always people complain about like, what is the pedal axis theorem? I forgot how to do the IX plus AD squared. Remind me how to find the centroid even. Oh, truss is zero force member. All these questions, they could take you like few seconds if you really know what you're doing. And I think Nick is laughing.
Well, those zero force members, I watched so many YouTube videos about that because I was like, I don't get it. There's so many things. I was like, what is the deal with this? Because there are a couple questions. They're like, okay, what's the zero force member? And it should not take you 6 minutes to answer that question. It should take you 30 seconds, right? But it's like, oh my God, those are the easy ones. You should just boom. I mean, I watched a ton of YouTube videos on it because I was like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, this is a hot topic with my clients. Tell me how to find zero force member. Okay. And then I'll tell them, I was like, oh, it's that easy? Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Well, I only see one question so far in the chat, but if folks want to drop in more questions, we definitely want to answer specific ones that you guys have. The one that I see in here is, are there any available resources where I can find discounted code books that my company no longer provides?
I want to say you can find the NDS on Google, the IBC on Google. The ACI version 23.18.14 is actually on Google. I was told that there is a Steel Manual version 14th edition also on Google. I think you could, the OSHA as well on Google. I would say you could find probably 30, 35, if not more, 40% stuff on Google. And obviously, ASHTO is not going to be on Google, even though that I saw Reddit, conversation the other day talking about here's a code for ASHTO. So you can find some. I don't know about discounted codes, but I would definitely talk to friends and coworkers and just see if you can, at least on my end, I was able to get all of them from my company / from friends. Oh, I don't really use TMS. Can you send me TMS? When I took it, I used it 2013. Now it's 2016. So it might be hard to find 2016 if you don't have specific person to work with the masonry industry. But use 2013 is fine. Don't really be very picky about it. I think you'll be fine. I don't know, Nick or Clan, if you guys want to add, or Cameron, if you guys want to add something.
I mean, I would say I found a couple of them online, but really just networking. I mean, reaching out to people in school. When you're in school, you do get discounted for some of the code books. Like the Steel Manual, you get half off if you're a student and you just sign up for AISC. You get a discount there. But yeah, just networking is really what helped me get all the codes. And not all the codes they don't change a ton. So if you find an older version, sometimes that can be okay. It's just making sure you know where to go, because that could be tricky, as sometimes they do change the sections. But
Yep, like I remember the TMS, they changed that equation for the shear strength, but it's in the same kind of like zone or area. You just it's not equation 830, it's equation 825. So it's not really changing a lot.
yeah.
Yeah, I would say the
And
same
speaking
thing.
of code versions, Clayton, do you know which ones is currently used on the exams? And then maybe your take on how you got them.
Yeah, I could tell you if you want. Clinton, you could.
Yeah, I don't know I can't remember which ones are used on the exam.
So ASC 716, ACI 3.18.14, IBC 2018, and then TMS is 2016, PCI still the 7th, ASHTO is the 8th, and OSHA I think 2020 still.
They're all on the bottom of the specs, the spec sheet. Yeah. You pull up the civil structural CVT exam specifications, they're all on the bottom of that.
Let's see if I can have that here.
And I pulled it up, but
you could share your screen if you want.
Yeah, I can do that. Let's see, how do I do that? Okay. This one. All right. Everyone see that?
Yep.
Yep.
At the bottom.
Okay.
Yep. Page 4 or page 3 and 4.
This is in my, okay, there we go. Get that here. So if you go to the NCS, website and click on the exams, PE, scroll down, and I got tricked up by this. It's not the structural, it's the civil.
Mm-hmm.
And then this one, the civil structural, and then that pulls up all the different questions, number of questions, all the things you need to know per section. And then at the bottom, it tells you exactly what you'll get in the exam. And then you get those.
Yeah, I think they changed the steel from the 14th to the 15th.
Yeah.
Which is the gold one. No, the turquoise one. The gold one is the 16th.
Yeah. Yeah, because I have the teal one.
Yep. Yeah.
So
keep changing color. Getting fancy.
I want the gold one just because.
The gold.
That's my favorite manual though, so I don't know. I'm just a nerd.
Do you guys have any other questions in your chats?
Yeah, I think there's another question here says, would you say there is much any overlap in between the FE and the PE? Um, and Nick and Clint, if you guys want to answer, I'm happy to. I think there's a lot, but at least on the trusses, the mechanics of materials, statics, some of the basic stuff. I think there's at least, in my opinion, 20% or probably even more than that. The only thing is going to be different is knowing what are the specific code that you're dealing with, or what is like the code that you're dealing with, and kind of plug in the equation. There is some tips that I actually forgot about. Is the units for AASHTO is usually kips, and for ACI usually pound. You'll see a big difference between those two equations when it comes to the capacity for concrete. For example, in ACI, you'll see 2 square root F prime C. In AASHTO, you'll see 0.0316, which is the same, but you're dividing by a square root 1,000. So that what ruins really the whole thing. So I would say definitely make sure that you know what units you're working with, as well as just remember going back to basic, because a lot of these things is built on basic and knowing the codes, especially structural analysis, structural design. That's pretty much FE stuff, plus minus.
Yeah, I would say I would agree with probably 20%. I mean, so now the structural exam is just structural questions. There's some geotech. Um, I think there's a lot of fundamental concepts that are carried through from the structural analysis standpoint, that you need to still know. But they might be baked into a question that also includes the codes as well. So I think there's a lot of additional um, material that you have to understand, which is mostly just the code books, and then having a very strong understanding of just your basic structural analysis principles. So
I think even with the GTech, you still there's I think overlap in between the FE, like time factor, or finding your overturning moment, or finding your active or passive, earth pressure coefficient. I think that's very similar, or even like the one-way drainage or two-way drainage. That's also something similar. Settlement as well, bearing pressure as well. These type of equation, just kind of like modify them and make them fancy schmancy and change the reference handbook. So this is PE. This is going to be harder. I think personally the PE is easier than the FE, in my opinion. I don't know if you guys agree.
I don't
Eh,
agree. But
I probably don't either.
yeah, I don't know if I either.
But the next question kind of goes off what you're talking about geotech. Roughly what percentage of the test was geotech questions now in the new format? Nick, I don't know if you maybe mind sharing the specs again, and then maybe just sharing your guys' experience, Clayton and Nick, with the new exam. How many questions were geotech related?
I had a ton personally, and I don't do geotech very often, so that was really tough. Let me see. I mean, yeah, because it would be in the materials and material properties, right? The soil classification, that was a big one for me. And then knowing your shallow and deep foundations and retaining walls. I had a ton of retaining wall questions. I don't
Same.
know why. It just is what it is. You get it, you get them, and you don't. So, and knowing like that a thing that Newton went through, like the greater or less than the L over B or whatever it was. Yeah, I did that so many times.
Tons. Yep.
Now I know it. So I don't do it in my day job, but there it is.
Yep. Did you get like factor of safety against overturning and sliding?
Yes. Yeah, you had to
Yep.
figure out the factor of safety for all that stuff. Yeah. And
Yep.
which one's the worst? Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, which is not on here, but it's there.
No. Yes, it says retaining wall. So you have to know the retaining wall somehow, under all that
And
great item. Exactly. Great
this is
item.
the biggest one, right? I mean,
Yep.
26 to 39 questions. It could be half.
I felt mine was fairly light on geotechnical questions. I had a handful of deep foundation and slab. I had quite a few. I didn't have very many like actual. There was a lot of theoretical questions for geotech, but I didn't have very many actual design questions. And so I think it's kind of luck of the draw with how many you get. I don't think you really know until I think it's different for each exam. So
Yeah, it's computer-based test. Populating questions from computer. And if you're lucky, you get the questions that you like. Like I got retaining walls. Like, yeah, great, retaining wall. I do a lot of retaining wall. Great. And Nick probably was like, nope, that's not my area.
Nope, I do not design. I can design retaining walls, but I typically don't. I usually do shallow foundations and stuff like that. Some deep, but yeah. The soil classifications, like that part, I definitely that's like the in the handbook, right?
Hmm.
Like that's where you get all that stuff from. So that's why like typically I always went to the handbook and typed it in just to see if it would come up or go to that section and try to find it. But yeah.
I agree. I found the handbook to be pretty helpful. At least that's the first place I would look just briefly before the codes. So,
Yeah.
and I
Yep.
agree. I would use like the diagrams from the handbook as well because I felt like those are easier to use. So
Yep. It's 3.7 in the handbook, specifically 3.7.2 and 3.7.3 for USCS and AASHTO classification. So
Does anyone else have questions in their chats?
I do not.
Clayton, we're not asking you.
I don't have any either. Does anyone else have additional questions for us? Okay. I guess Clayton, Nick, Newton, anything you guys want to say to close us out? Otherwise, maybe give everybody back a little bit of time in their night.
Yeah, I would say overarching, do a lot of practice problems. I think that's the way that's what helped me the most. And um, yeah, just create a plan, stick to it, and you'll do great. So good luck.
Yeah, that's the same thing that I want to say is just stick with a plan. Um, if you want to really pass this exam and not take it, one more time, I think do your very best and try to be efficient with your time and do more, do as much as you can, practice problems, but also take some time for yourself and for your family, for beloved people that you're around you. Um, and know your capacity. If you could do a 2 month prep course, that's great. 3 month prep course, that's phenomenal. Just do not really cram things in and take some time off and just relax and enjoy some time, not just say studying, because I don't think that's a great idea. It's going to go on the other side of it, which you don't really want to have bad impact on you studying for this exam. And I think you'll do great. Stick with basic and know your codes and time management. Don't really think that flagging a problem is an issue. I think it's not an issue. Just keep doing what you're doing. And thanks, everyone.
Yeah, you got it.
Well, thanks, guys. And we'll be planning a session number 2 where we'll go over practice problems. So look out for that. But otherwise, thank you guys for joining us, and we'll hope to see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all.